Good evening, Georgiana Woodhall, 4560 Broadway Boulevard, Monroeville. I'd like to just say I'm slightly disappointed with the settlement agreement. I was shocked to see Mr. Little's signature on that, not yours, Mr. Ratcher. I'd just like to ask who was present in these negotiations to reach that settlement.
I handled the negotiations as a representative of council in the municipality.
Okay. I was just taken back to see Mr. Little's signature on the settlement.
Mr. Little is the chief executive
Right.
of the municipality, so he's the one that has to sign the documents. And I have no problem with signing it, but my signature doesn't mean anything.
Oh, it means a lot to me.
Well, I'll sign one if
Much
you
more than
like.
Mr. Little's. A few months back at the, I believe it was the August meeting, I had an article I wanted to read in reference. I was hoping that Mr. Mangini would have been here and brought it to every meeting and hadn't seen Mr. Mangini since. So I'd like to read this article. This is from 2010. It was from the Tribune Review. Monroeville Company at the center of deadly local gas well explosion. Monroeville-based Huntley & Huntley is at the center of an Indiana Township gas well explosion Friday that killed 2 workers and ignited a fire that burned for 10 hours before being extinguished. At least 3 other workers at the site when the explosion occurred, but they were not injured. Huntley & Huntley, located at 4075 Monroeville Boulevard, owns the shallow well, which was produced natural gas since it was drilled 2 years ago. The well is 3,500 feet deep. Huntley & Huntley President Keith Mangini said contractors were performing routine maintenance work on one of the 2 oil storage tanks at the site when the blast occurred. Humphrey said workers had been welding. Mangini and Huntley was cooperating with investigating agencies, including the DEP and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The company has more than 350 gas wells in the region. DEP has cited Huntley & Huntley for 4 violations since 1998. The company was cited twice, but not fined in February 2000 for failure to submit an annual production report. It was cited twice and fined $8,425 for unspecified violations in November 1998. None of the wells in Indiana Township received DEP permits prior to 2004. The Allegheny County, well, I'm going to skip that part only because it names the person as deceased. Huntley & Huntley had hired Northeast Energy to perform maintenance on the one of 2 oil storage tanks. The force of the blast flung one of the tanks measuring 12 feet tall by 8 feet wide, more than 70 yards. The fire burned for more than 10 hours before a crew from Wild Well Control, Inc. of Houston, Texas, arrived and extinguished it by forcing water into the opening. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration investigated Indiana County-based Northeast Energy twice in the past 3 years when fires broke out on drilling sites. OSHA records show it fined Northeast Energy $12,442 for its role in the September 2007 fire on a drilling rig in Clarion County, in which 1 worker suffered second-degree burns to his face and neck. The company paid $5,965 through a settlement with the agency. OSHA fined Northeast Energy $4,000 for starting a fire on a drilling rig in Charleroi in November 2008. You know, I could go on to read this article, but I'm going to pass it in as part of the record. You know, I would ask you to seriously understand what you're bringing into our community. We're not in a rural area. We're in a heavily populated area with aging infrastructure. And I think I've said over and over about the Sunoco gas line that was put in, probably close to 400 feet of it on my property. And what we don't need is any activity around it to disturb what we already have that needs to be replaced. I'm going to just submit the Sharon to you.